Hello and welcome to the fourth topic, plastics, in Unit 3 of National 5 Chemistry. Before I start this unit, I would expect you to have a good understanding of homologous series and functional groups. You should have basic knowledge of alkenes and its uses like polymerization, and you should know how to write structural formula. Plastics. Most of the plastic around us is obtained from crude oil. Crude oil, as you all know, are kind of fossil fuels which is made up of different kinds of hydrocarbons, and it is generally found trapped in some sedimentary rocks of the Earth's crust. Plastics are nothing but polymers. And what are polymers? Polymers are large molecules which are made up of small repeating units called monomers. The use of the plastic or its application, it depends on the chemical properties of the monomer that makes the polymer. So, and how do you name these polymers? Naming of the polymers comes from the monomer that makes it. Like for example, if you see here, the monomer is propene, so the polymer would be repeated units of propene. So you just write it as polypropene. For phenylethene, the polymer will be polyphenylethene. Polymerization is a process in which the small repeating units in some of the hydrocarbon families join together to form a polymer. So, polymerization can be addition polymerization, which involves small unsaturated monomers with carbon double bond that join to form the polymer. So, can you think of an example of hydrocarbon having carbon double bond? Yes, it is ethene, which is carbon double bond and having four hydrogen atoms. So it can be written as C2H4. Polymer backbone will only have carbon atoms. So this is the backbone structure. So if you see the backbone of any addition polymer, it will only have carbon atoms. Next is condensation polymers. Condensation polymer involves monomers with different functional groups that join to form polymers, and they generally release small molecules such as water in the process of making of polymers. And polymer backbone will have carbon and other atoms as well. So we will be discussing in details about these two kinds of polymers. What are the examples? Examples of addition polymer would be polyethylene, polypropene, while that of condensation polymers would be polyester and polyamide. Now we come to addition polymers. Addition polymerization, as I said to you, it generally consists of small unsaturated monomers with carbon double bond. So we have to concentrate on two things. It should be a small unsaturated monomer. And unsaturated monomers can have double bond or triple bond, but polymers are possible with only those unsaturated monomers with carbon double bond. Now I'll explain the mechanism behind addition polymerization. We all know that addition polymerization is a process involving many small unsaturated monomers combining to form one large polymer molecule. The alkene ethene is one of the most important example of addition polymerization. So let's look at the molecular. So ethene has a molecular formula of C2H4, and it can be written like this. So in this we can see that you have carbon-carbon double bond. What happens actually is if you have, let's say, three ethene molecules, So the first step will always be to arrange the molecules in such a way that the backbone consists of only carbon-carbon double bonds. So the next step is that the double bond between the two carbon atoms will break up, and they have a tendency to share the electrons. So the electron goes on this end and one electron goes on this end. Similarly, one electron comes here and one electron comes here. Now this would lead to a single bonded carbon chain, which is free to combine on either side with n number of ethene monomers. So you can see here that we had 3 ethene molecules. So the long chain would have 6 carbons in its backbone. So another example of this would be the propene monomer. Now in propene monomer, we have 3 carbon in the long chain. So we need to rearrange the propene molecule. And now you can see that it has been rearranged. And so now in the long chain, we have got carbon-carbon double bonds. So the molecules link together by partially breaking their double bonds, and you can now see a section of polypropene molecule. So again, this polypropene molecule, the long chain, will have 6 carbon atom because there were 3 propene monomers combined together. The next step here would be to identify a monomer if a polymer is given to you. So this is a polymer provided. You can pause the video here and try and think of the monomer and then come and check your answer. So the best way would be to look at the carbons in the main chain and look at the trend of the molecules on the top. As you can see here, it's hydrogen, hydroxyl, hydrogen, hydroxyl. So there's a pattern here which lets you identify that the monomer is ethanol. Next is condensation polymerization. So condensation polymerization, as I told you before, it is a kind of polymerization reaction in which the monomers have got different functional groups. So, and they generally combine together, releasing a small molecule which is generally a water molecule. So we are taking example of polyester, which is formed by the polymerization of diacid molecule and a diol molecule. So the diacid molecule, as you can see here, is the molecule having the carboxylic acid functional group on both the sides of the alkyl chain, which is represented by R, and diol is again alkyl chain having hydroxyl functional group on both the ends. So you can see here the kind of reaction that is taking place. When the molecules combine together, hydroxyl from the carboxylic chain and hydrogen from the hydroxyl functional group combine together to form a water molecule, and the result that you get is a polyester, which has got the ester link, which is represented by C double bond O and a single bond with another oxygen atom, which is further associated with the diol molecule. So on this side will be the diol molecule, and on this side would be the diacid molecule. So this is how you can simplify it. Natural polymers are example of condensation polymers. The most common natural polymers are proteins and carbohydrates. So proteins are generally made up of monomers which are called amino acids, and as you can see here, the structure of an amino acid, it is a bifunctional monomer. So this is again slightly different from the condensation polymers we did before, in which though they were bifunctional, but the functional group was same on both the sides of the alkyl group. Here the functional group is different. On one side you can see the functional group is carboxylic acid. On the other side the functional group is an amine group. Generally, proteins are the condensed large polymerization product of the monomer amino acid. So, protein which is present in the food undergoes hydrolysis and it breaks up into amino acid, which are the monomers in the bloodstream, and this can further combine together to form protein, which is the building block of our body. And this is the process shown here in the graphical format. So you can see here there are two amino acid groups. So this is one amino acid and this is another amino acid. They are joined together in such a way that the amine group of one faces the carboxylic group of the other molecule, and hydrogen from the amine group and hydroxyl from the carboxylic acid group combine together to form water molecule, and a condensed product is formed. The bond between the amine and the carboxylic acid group is called the peptide link. This peptide molecule can undergo hydrolysis combined with one water molecule, forming the respective amino acids. The next example of natural polymers is carbohydrates. Plants make carbohydrates, which is glucose, during photosynthesis, and glucose is the simplest kind of carbohydrate. So you can say in a way that glucose is the monomer that plant prepares during photosynthesis. This monomer, it combines with its isomer, which is fructose, which is again very much similar to glucose, and these two simpler units, they combine together to form a sucrose molecule, which is a condensation product of these two monomers, and this process is followed by removal of one water molecule. So generally plants, they make carbohydrates or glucose during photosynthesis, and this is stored in the form of starch, which is again the polyglucose product. So it is the condensation product of glucose polymerization. Next topic which we will talk about today will be identifying monomers from condensation polymers. And as you know, to identify monomer, the only process is to hydrolyze the condensed product. First example is polyester. So we have a polyester molecule, and this you can see is denoted by the ester link here in between. Now water molecule is added to it. This will hydrolyze the molecule into two diol and diacid molecules. Next would be polyamide. Again, the process would be hydrolysis. And so you have this polyamide here, which has got the peptide link as shown here. Water molecule is added to it, and this will hydrolyze it into diacid and diamine molecules. The way you need to identify that this is diacid is, you can see here that it has got acid group on either side of the benzyl atom, and here it has got amine groups on the either side of the benzyl atom. So this helps you to identify that this would be diacid and this would be a diamine. This is the end of my lesson today. Hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I hope to see you back again in the next topic. Thanks. Bye.